Imagine that you're stuck on a remote island together with a few other people, and one of them is a killer. Could you figure out who it is? Well, you can check out your detective skills by guessing who the killer is in this movie. Welcome back, guys. It's Motion Recaps again, and today we're covering the 2004 thriller, Mindhunters. Spoilers headed your way. Here we go. 7 unique trainees in the FBI's psychological profiling program are sent to an island to pass the test by catching a serial killer in a simulation. Before taking off, a detective from the Philadelphia PD joins them as an observer. They arrive on the island, and their instructor tells them that they have 3 days to find the serial killer. The instructor leaves them alone, and the next morning, the group goes to find their first crime scene. However, once they find it, everything goes horribly wrong. I'll tell you what happened in just a moment, but first, take a moment right now and subscribe to this channel. Like this video if you're enjoying the recap thus far, and hit that bell icon to be notified of when we have another movie recap ready for you to enjoy. Alright, well let's get it on with Mindhunters. 2 FBI trainees, Sarah and JD, are undergoing training as profilers. However, they're currently in the middle of nowhere while looking for a vicious serial killer. As they drive through the night, they notice an old house. They stop, and Sarah goes to check it out. She sees a suspicious car, and she tells that to JD, who calls for backup. Sarah hears a girl screams, and she rushes into the house. JD follows her. They explore the house, and eventually they find the bodies of 2 girls and the killer's body. Sarah reports that the situation is secured. However, the real killer shows up, and he stabs Sarah. JD then joins her in death. To their luck, everything was a simulation to test their skills. 2 of them then talk with their instructor, experienced profiler Jake Harris, and he's not happy at all. He tells the students where they were wrong, and he hopes that they would do better in the future. Then we meet the other students. Bobby, a young man with a talent for fixing things. Vince, a wheelchair-bound ex-cop who doesn't go anywhere without his gun after he got shot. Nicole, a smoker who's attempting to quit. Rafe, a very intelligent caffeine-powered British investigator. And Lucas, a supposedly fearless man whose parents were killed when he was a child. Harris briefs them about their last test. They'll go to an isolated island called Onega, and there they'll try to catch a killer called the Puppeteer. Harris explains to them that the Navy used the island for their training simulations, and that its only residents are the training dummies. The group then goes out for a drink, and their overall morale is high, though Vince discovers that neither he nor Sarah will make the rank of profiler after secretly reading their training evaluations. The next day, the group meets Harris and they get in the helicopter, ready to travel to Onega. At the last minute, Detective Gabe from the Philadelphia Police Department joins them. Harris explains to the others that Gabe will only observe their training. Soon they arrive on the island, and there's nothing there besides cats, target dummies, vehicles on mechanical rails, and small-town storefronts. Harris explains to his students that they have 3 days to catch the puppeteer, who already killed 2 victims, and soon he will kill the 3rd. Then he shows them the place where they'll sleep, and then he leaves. The group gets comfortable, and they chill while JD is making dinner with Nicole. JD asks Gabe why he's here, and he evades the answer by saying that they don't want to hear his stories. The group then starts profiling Gabe, who reveals that he's also a skilled profiler in his own right. He tells Lucas that he has an addictive personality. Then he tells Nicole that she sleeps with 1 man in this room. After that, he tells JD that he acts like a leader because he never had one in his life, and to Sarah that she cracks under pressure and that she's unreliable to her colleagues. By everyone's look on their faces, it's visible that Gabe nailed it. The night falls. We find out that Gabe was right as we see JD and Nicole are in a relationship as they make out in the shower. Outside, Sarah and Lucas briefly bond over losses in their families. Sarah reveals that her sister was murdered and drowned, creating a persistent fear of water, while Lucas shares that his parents died when he was 10. The 2 resolve to use the scenario to confront their personal fears. The following morning, Sarah finds a dead cat with a watch in her mouth. The others get around to examine it, and they're not sure why the broken clock is set for 10 a.m. The gang then goes to find the puppeteer's crime scene, and they split into groups of 2. They're carefully investigating around when they hear Vince calling them. He found the crime scene, and it's unnerving, even if it's fake. The group investigates the crime scene when suddenly, a toy clock starts playing music. JD stops Sarah from turning it off, and he does that by himself. The toy breaks and starts a domino chain reaction. However, that little trick ends up catastrophically as it activates a tank of liquid nitrogen that freezes JD to death. Everyone is shocked, and Sarah then notices that it's 10 a.m. on the toy clock. The group gets back to their base with JD's body. Gabe finds a broken watch on the pool table, with its clock hands at noon. He tells the others that the killer put it there. But Lucas tells him that it's not important now, because they're leaving, and everyone heads to the dock to leave the island. But the boat explodes when Lucas triggers a laser tripwire. Everyone gets out of the water alive, and they speculate if Harris is maybe the killer, because no one saw him leaving the island. Vince then pulls a gun that he smuggled, and thanks to him, the group breaks into the Navy's armory. They grab the guns and thermal vision equipment. Then they split into groups and head out to search for the killer. Sarah is fixing Lucas's arm at the headquarters when she notices that it will almost be noon. After returning to base, the group realizes that the broken watches and clocks found at each crime scene point to the fact that the killer plans to kill someone at a time designated by the broken clocks. The group then concludes that the killer is one of them because they didn't find anyone else on the island. At first, suspicions seem to point to Gabe, as Lucas shows up with maps and documents of the island that he found in Gabe's room. However, before the group finishes confronting him, they each pass out, realizing that their coffee was drugged. Bobby wakes up first, and he immediately cuffs Gabe, who tries to explain himself. Soon, everyone else wakes up, and they interrogate Gabe, who tells them that he didn't make the coffee, and he points out that Rafe made it. Bobby goes to wake Rafe up, and to everyone's surprise, Rafe's head falls off. The group finds out that Rafe's body is drained of blood and that the killer wrote a bunch of numbers on the glass walls. They also find 2 watches with the time set to 6 p.m. They check theirs only to find out that it's 5:40 p.m. Suspicions again return to Gabe. The group cuffs him and they ask him where the next trap is, and he reveals that the Department of Justice sent him to check Harris and his methods because there are rumors that he's too tough and extreme. However, the others still don't trust Gabe, and they leave Vince to keep his eye on him. The others go to figure out what the deal is with the numbers, and after some time of thinking, Bobby figures out that the killer hit the measurement of the speed of light between the numbers. Then they quickly turn off the lights, only to find out that they have letters written on the back of their coats and jackets. Vince is observing Gabe as the clock hits 6 p.m., and suddenly chaos emerges as the water pipe breaks and the neon lights fall off. The water gets electrified, and Vince is forced to grab onto a pipe to survive. Gabe convinces Vince to toss him his gun, and Vince trusts him. Gabe shoots the holes in the wall, and he uses them to climb over to the power switch. He turns it off at the last second, and poor Vince is happy that he's alive. The others show up, and they figure out that Gabe is not the killer. Bobby then checks the water valve while acknowledging the engineering expertise needed to set this trap. Everyone is looking at him suspiciously. Bobby completely shuts off the water, and he activates a trap that kills him instantly. The group then finds another watch, and they only have an hour and a half. They immediately start investigating, and first, they complete the word puzzle on the back of their coats and jackets. The killer wrote the word Croatoan. Vince explains that the word has a connection with a story about Roanoke Colony, which disappeared without a trace. The only evidence and clue was the word Croatoan, and no one is sure what it means. The group then finds a sample of the killer's blood. Everyone gives a sample of their blood, and soon it turns out that the killer's blood has a match with Sarah's. They tie her up, and Vince gets a theory that Sarah is killing out of rage because no one found the person who killed and raped her sister. Gabe interrogates her, and Nicole gets angry and leaves. After some time of questioning, the group figures out that Sarah doesn't fit the killer's profile. Nicole finds a pack of cigarettes that fell out of a cigarette machine, and she gives in to her cravings. She goes outside to smoke one, but as she inhales a decent dose of nicotine, she burns her fingers. Then she burns from the inside. The others arrive, but it's too late for her. The cigarettes were laced with acid. The group gets back to the base, only to hear Harris's voice on the speakers. Everyone besides Vince goes to find Harris and finally take him down. The trio carefully investigate the abandoned streets, and they find the basement from which the voice is coming. However, there they find a dead Harris, and they find out that the voice was recorded moments before his death. Sarah finds 3 watches that are exactly set for the current time. Suddenly, Harris's corpse starts dancing. Lucas shoots the mechanism and Gabe turns off the music. The two of them then point their guns at each other. Suddenly, the lights shut off and everyone gets outside, and they shoot at each other. The training dummies make things even worse for them. Sarah hides from the fire under the bus, and from there, she sees Gabe shooting Lucas. Gabe then starts looking for Sarah. He gets onto the bus, but Sarah escapes. Vince gets into the freezer to reload his gun. He gets out and he hears weird noises. After he gets into the elevator and turns it on, a killer shows up. Vince points his gun at him and pulls the trigger. His gun explodes, and Sarah finds his body. Gabe shows up and attacks Sarah. However, she quickly gets the upper hand. Even with the pointed gun in his face, Gabe is not afraid of Sarah. He kicks a table at her, but Lucas suddenly shows up, and he attacks Gabe. The two of them have a fierce fight. Both Lucas and Gabe fall through the glass panel, and to Lucas's luck, Sarah knocks Gabe out. Lucas shows Sarah that he was wearing a bulletproof vest. With Gabe subdued, he expresses doubt that there's enough evidence to prove that Gabe was a killer. Sarah, however, reveals that she found a way to get one step ahead of the killer. Knowing that the killer was relying on timed mechanisms and remotes, She changed one of the clocks to appear slow by 15 minutes and covered it in a powder that glows under black light. Sarah knew that the killer would not be able to resist setting the clock to the correct time. Then she grabs a black light to scan Gabe's hands and reveal him as a killer. She's shocked when she finds the marking powder on Lucas's hands instead of Gabe's. Lucas confesses that his parents did not die in an accident, but that he killed them. Struggling ever since to find more thrilling targets to kill, he joined the FBI and planned to kill his brilliant fellow profilers, the only people he thought would be worthy prey. Lucas tells Sarah that it was easy because he easily found everyone's weaknesses. JD was the leader, and he was always in front of the others. Lucas knew that he would activate the trap. The same goes for Bobby. It was predictable for him to fix the water pipe. Nicole had a problem with nicotine. Vince always carried his gun, and Lucas sabotaged it to fire backwards. Sarah tries to run, but Lucas catches her and he tries to drown her, but she manages to kick him into the water. The two both manage to recover their weapons underwater, but Sarah manages to shoot Lucas first. Lucas recovers and tells Sarah that everyone will blame her because the evidence he planted, but Gabe comes to her rescue. Lucas attempts to regain his weapon, but Sarah shoots him in the head. The following day, Gabe and Sarah flag down a US Navy helicopter to leave the island, determining that they've sufficiently secured the scene. The movie ends with the helicopter leaving. And that was our recap of the movie Mindhunters. Maybe not the best rated movie out there, but hey, LL Cool J's in it. And aren't you glad that he wasn't the killer after all? By the way, did you figure out who the killer was before the big reveal? Well guys, that's a wrap for this recap. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.